if you wait to scale when you think you're ready, you're wasting time, because you're never going to truly learn until you go out there and do it. You literally need to go out there and break things, learn things. You need to fail. When you fail is when you learn. If you wait till you think you're ready, you're waited too long. Like, there's stuff that when we started Angies, we thought we knew everything, but we learned so much, right? And so if I waited till I thought I learned more, I need to learn more, we would have been behind and we might not have ever done it. So you have to go out there, you have to break things, you have to take the risk, and you just got to make it work.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, co-founder of Salad & Go, and most recently, Angie's Food Concepts, Tony Christofellis. My man, Tony, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Always, every day.
Dude, psyched to have you here, and it's amazing to see what you built with Salad & Go, and it blows my mind that after 10 years, scaling that to I don't know how many locations you had.
Well, it took us a lot longer than 10 years. So we came up with the idea of Salad & Go in 2011.
Yeah.
And then from there, we had to, fine tune the idea. We had to raise money. We had to find a team.
Right.
And we didn't open the first store until 2013.
And you parted ways in 2021.
Yep.
So I'm sure we're going to talk about all that. It blows my mind that you were able to walk away from that and start what you have here so fast. Dude, if this episode isn't inspirational, I don't know what will be. I can't wait to dive into who you are and how you got to where you are today. But let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Well, when I talk to the team, sometimes I'll end it with get some, meaning like, let's get fired up and let's get it.
Get some.
Yeah.
Little things like that. These, how often do you say that? Is that like a daily thing?
When I send an email to the team, I might end it with get some.
What does get some mean to you?
Well, so that comes from the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And when you're in the Marines and you were doing PT, physical activities, or you're going to do something super hard, you would just get fired up and say, get some, and you just go at it.
What are you getting?
You'll fully commit.
Yeah, but what do you think you're getting? What are you communicating? When you get some?
Yeah, let's dominate. Let's be the greatest ever. Let's push ourselves to the limit.
Right. And how do you get some?
How do you do it?
Yeah.
Well, it all starts off with great people. So
right.
If you don't have great people who are committed, who have amazing ability, amazing heart, I rather hire someone who has a lot of heart than the best ability. But it all starts with the people. So if you have committed people who are dedicating themselves to the common goal, which our mission is to make, these luxury foods affordable to everyone. If you don't have great people, it doesn't matter what you say. It's, really not going to make that difference. But if you have a group of people that are committed and you motivate them, you challenge them, and you push them, they want to be pushed. They want to be challenged, and they want that fight. So when you say, get some, let's go after the day, let's be the greatest ever.
Yeah.
That motivates them. That fires them up.
When I hear that, I think of get some now. Do it
no,
now.
It's today. It's this hour. It's the next hour.
Yeah.
What I always tell the team, what we did in the past was the past. I did, Roshan and I, my wife and I, we did come up with the idea of Salad & Go. We did, raise the money, come up with a team. We grew it, and then we sold it. But that was in the past. I want to be judged what I do today.
Right.
And a lot of times when I'm talking to the team, even with Angie's, when I'm referencing last year's performance, I'll say they did this, because to me that was last year. It's another team. Today is who we are, and that's what we need to focus on. So,
I love that, man.
So it's truly get some, focus on today, focus on this hour, focus on the next. And then also is if you made a mistake in the past, forget about it, focus on today and moving forward. I don't want to be judged by my failures or my successes. I want to be judged by what am I doing today? Yeah. And I want my team to know that as well.
I love this, man. Great way to get this thing started. And if you're not feeling motivated after that, I don't know. I give up. I retire, man. That was good stuff. So where does it make sense to start sharing your story? You start Salad & Go in 2011.
I think
how far back do we go?
I think we need to go back to my childhood.
Okay. This is like counseling.
No, I think we do, because it all goes back to my my roots. And so my mother, Angie, she was a Greek immigrant from Greece, and she came to this country with her family for a better life. And they really had that mentality of, truly get some.
How old was she when she got here?
She was young, like in elementary school.
Got
it. And so they had this grit, this mentality of do whatever it takes. And work your butt off to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I grew up in that type of household. And then early on, my mom and dad got divorced, and it was just her. It was just her making it happen for my sister and I. Of course, we had family support because in the Greek culture, family is super strong. So we wouldn't be able to make it without the family support that we had. But my mom was incredibly strong, willed us, and she, we didn't have a ton growing up in terms like we never owned a house, we never had the nicest cars, but we had the most important thing, which was love and someone who really cared about us and really pushed us. And so early on, I think it became clear to me that we didn't have we're constantly moving, and we weren't. Almost felt like there was a class structure that I was, not a part of, this other class that had.
Well, you're first generation.
Yeah, I am.
And your mom came, sacrificed.
No, she worked her butt off. She did amazing. But I always felt that at a young age that I didn't have what everyone else has. And then she moved us to this community in Massachusetts called Winchester, which was a very wealthy community.
Just west of Boston.
Yeah, very wealthy community, northwest. And then she moved us there. It was my uncle's house, and my uncle had a 3-story home, and we rented one of the floors, and we lived there. But this community was super wealthy. The kids had the super nice cars, the super nice houses, and I always felt like, I just almost felt like an outsider. So that from a very young age, it really made a huge imprint on who I was as a person. So when I got older, when I was in the position to do something, I always wanted to make something that was incredibly luxurious, affordable to more people.
How did it make you feel to not have those things?
Yeah, I mean, it pisses me off. I'm a very internally motivated person, and so not having the things, not being respected, I always felt like in my life I've never been the greatest at something. I played lacrosse, I was a really good player, I wasn't the best, and I felt slighted there, and everything I've done, I felt slighted. And even with Salad and Go, I don't feel like it's the best work that I have done.
Do you think that's a strength?
Yeah, I'm sure it's a strength and a weakness, everything else, right? But it definitely drives me, right? And but yeah, so I felt like from the early age how I was raised, I want to make these things affordable to more people that couldn't afford them before. So when we did Salad and Go, we how can we make this fine dining quality salad affordable through a drive-through and make it fast, convenient, right?
Right.
And that was kind of the idea of Salad and Go, and we brought on a five diamond chef to start that with us, and so we wanted to make that more affordable, and then we pushed that a little bit further by doing organics. So as you know, organic is a luxury. We all know that we should be eating more organic. We feed whenever we're in the position, we'll feed our kids organic, right?
Right.
And I wanted to make that affordable through the drive-through, and then we did that with Salad and Go. After we left, though, they got rid of all the organics and made a lot of changes.
Oh man!
But these things of making these luxuries affordable were super important.
So you were 34 years old when you started Salad and Go?
33, I think.
33, in that ballpark. If I'm doing my math semi correctly. It sounds like you were in the Marines, right?
So, I was in the reserves. Yeah.
Reserves. Okay. Mm-hmm. What were you doing? From how did you find when did you know you wanted to open a restaurant?
Well, I grew up in the restaurant industry, so
right.
in the Greek culture, we didn't have nannies or daycare. We were brought to the restaurants, so we called it Greek daycare. So I was always in the restaurants. I was always trying to help out, always eating the food, always seeing it. And when I was at boot camp, at that point I started thinking about doing my own restaurant and started thinking about that. And then later on, I started business planning. But when I business planned it, I really started thinking big, creating this incredible organization that would have this vertical integration, that would have the ability to make these luxuries affordable.
When did you when did you learn about vertical integration?
Studying Walmart, Southwest Airlines.
When were you
Amazon,
studying these companies?
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Because at that point, if you remember, that was a .com boom. And so everyone was trying to come up with a internet-based company.
Right.
And I knew nothing about it.
So in the early 2000s, you're early to mid-20s. Mm-hmm. What were you still thinking you want to open a restaurant?
Yeah, of course.
Was Salad and Go your first restaurant that you owned?
It was my first one I owned, yeah. But it wasn't. But the idea of Salad and Go came later. Like the idea of the infrastructure and the organization was kind of created back then, because I created this organization that would have this vertical integration. You would process everything, you would ship it to the store. And then by that, you can get these economies of scale. So I thought about that idea at that point. You would self-distribute. You'd pick up directly from the growers, the wholesale, the manufacturers, deliver it to a location, manufacture it, distribute to the stores. So that was developed in the early 2000s.
And why were you studying these companies like Walmart? Like, what was the
inspiration? Because it's all Southwest Airlines, Walmart. The idea there is to make these things more affordable, more people. I always loved that idea. And
yeah.
So Southwest Airlines democratized air travel. Walmart took stuff that was more expensive because inefficiencies with a retail model and made them cheaper. And so all of those were, to me, amazing. And so I said, well, how can I create some of those concepts, those ideas in the restaurant business?
Can you do vertical integration in a centralized food system easily?
No, it requires a ton of money. I mean, we've been at Angie's food concepts for about 2.5 years, and we've invested $26 million into the business to R&D the problem, to basically come up with the idea, how do you establish this vertical? How do you build it, implement it, then how do you manage it, and then how do you optimize it?
Right.
So at this point, we were at the point where we've done all that hard work, we've invested the money. Now we're at the stage to ramp, so to take a full advantage of what we built and what we invested in. So, but it's incredibly hard. It takes an incredible amount of money. It's more money and in time than, because working at a restaurant, whether it's one location, is incredibly hard, right? You're on your feet all day. You're constantly moving. There's a ton of stuff going on. Building the infrastructure we did it's not harder work. It's just different work and really requires a big team and a lot of money to make it happen.
So you had this idea of vertical integration in your mid-20s. You knew that you wanted to start something someday that incorporated vertical integration. Were you living intentionally at this point in your life to become a restaurant owner?
I was. So I was trying to, I came up with business plans, tried to raise money, but I was really young and people were saying no. My mom at this time was like saying, hurry up, get going, get a real job. So then I got into sales. I did software sales. I sold computer-aided engineering software. I did well at that. And
what were you selling?
Computer-aided engineering. It's called CAE.
Okay.
Like finite element analysis. It's what companies use to do virtual testing instead of like physical testing. So it's a lot faster, a lot cheaper for companies to do that than, and you still got to do the physical testing, but it's something you can do through computers. And it's
got it.
So I sold that. I did well, but it wasn't fulfilling enough. And I always wanted to get back to the restaurant. So
how long did you do that?
It had to be like 8 years.
So mid 20s to early 30s.
No. And like, late 20s and then like 27 to when we started Salad and Go.
Got it. So,
and then Salad and Go idea came up where I was starting to get bored of what I was doing. And I wanted to get back to my business plan that I had, but I knew to develop what I had at that moment was, the initial idea was a ton of money and it would be really hard. So I wanted to just keep it more simple. So we just came up with the idea with a salad drive-through. And that's where we came up with the idea of Salad and Go. And Salad and Go, really, the idea there is that you can get salads faster at a drive-through. If anybody's worked in the restaurant industry or was a server, if they ever made a mistake on an item and you go back to the kitchen and say, I need something fast, salads are one of the things you can make really quickly.
Right.
So I knew that you can make salads really quickly. You could do it through a drive-through. You can make it fresh, healthy.
And there's also a huge hole in the market where people on the go, salad and go, it's hard. It's somebody personally who's always on the go, and I'm on the highway and I want to get something quick. I don't know where to go sometimes to get something healthy. So to have a salad and go that can stand up to a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Wendy's, and all these things, and to provide that healthy option, if you have brand recognition, is huge.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the idea, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the success of Salad and Go, I think, comes the fact that you could get something that, when we had it, that tastes great, that was on the go, that was fast, convenient, and low priced.
Got it.
And then that's what drove our success, and that's why it worked.
So when you were doing the software sales, were you in the background, in the back of your mind, it's like, I'm just doing this to raise enough money to get what I need to start my restaurant? Was that the plan?
It wasn't to raise money. It was just like, I was doing it because I needed to do it because I needed I needed to stop because I was a waiter.
Yeah.
Most of those years in the 20s, and I needed to get something that was would provide a lot more
security
income. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. And then I was always thinking about ideas. This is the way I am. And then it just the idea with Salad and Go just really was when I was driving. I was heading to a wedding, and I needed to do something. How do I do the restaurant? Salad and Go, and that was it. And from there, we started business planning, started building a team, started doing the R&D.
You're saying we, so you were married with your wife at this point?
Yeah, we were. We were. Oh no, 2010 we were. Yeah, we were married.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you, at this point, you're dreaming with somebody too.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Rashan since it's been, I think 2000. So she's been with me through all the iterations of ideas, and whenever I come up with an idea, I bounce it off her. And she likes the idea. She likes talking about them, and she herself was always working or eating at restaurants, so she had a good background on that as well. And I would always bounce ideas off her. And so that's basically how it is. Like some people talk about sports.
Yeah.
We talk about business in restaurants. And so that's how it's worked there.
We have to interrupt today's episode to let you know that every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, Restaurant Systems Pro CEO Fred Langley is going live to teach you everything you need to know to run a profitable restaurant from soup to nuts. All you gotta do is click the link below.
You're driving down the highway. You're going to a wedding.
Oh, it wasn't on a highway. It was just on a regular road.
You're driving down the road,
Yeah.
going to a wedding. You're thinking to yourself, I need to get out of this. I need to start. I need to do something. Was it just because you weren't happy doing what you were doing?
Yeah, what I was doing was I did well, made good money. The people I worked with were really good. It just wasn't as fulfilling as doing something that no one else has ever done.
Right.
It would be no different than me being a franchisee of another restaurant. It's someone else's idea. I'm just in a role that I'm executing for them, right? And
right.
so when
There's
I was
nothing wrong with that. There are people that are
No,
made to do that.
Number one, the cool thing about the world is the world needs people like me.
Right.
Needs people that do software sales, right? And it just wasn't me. It wasn't my stage to shine on. It wasn't my calling. And I needed to do something different. And
so after this thought you had that I need to do something, and then you think of Salad and Go, this idea.
Yeah, you start putting it on paper.
Yeah.
We start putting it on paper. You start talking. I start talking to Rashan about it. I start talking to some of my friends. Griffith Tran was one of the co-founders of Salad and Go. I started talking to Griffith about it. I started talking to Paul Casarano, who's my brother-in-law, and one of the co-founders. So you start talking to these people. Paul is a finance guy. Griffith is a foodie. So we start talking about that. Then we start realizing we need a chef to create these amazing recipes. Then we find a chef, and then we start, business planning, R&D with him.
So from the time you're driving down the road, going to this highway to the day you open, how much time has elapsed?
About 2.5 years.
So 2009 is when you have this idea.
No, it was 2011. We opened in 2013.
Got it. 2011, opened 2013.
It was July. I think the idea came July, the summer of 2010. So it was July 2010, and then shortly after we incorporated the company in August, and then it took us that long to business plan, to raise the money, to R&D, and then once you have the money, you need to find a location. Then you got to find a location. Then you got to build it.
So what was the hardest part for you in that first 2 years that you had to overcome?
Yeah, everyone said no.
So finding the money was hard.
Yeah. And we had some money. So Rashan, so we had some money saved up. Rashan was a school teacher before that, so she had her pension. Paul, my brother-in-law, co-founder, he did really well. He had a really successful finance career, so he had a decent amount of money. So we had that, but we also needed more because we were building a restaurant from scratch.
Was there a number in your head?
Yeah,
that you had that you said this is what we need to raise?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and we were off.
How far off were you?
Like $200,000.
Wow. How much do you think you used?
300,000.
300,000. So about 500. They always say whatever you think it is, add 50%, right? And that's
yeah,
about where you were.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's just the way it worked out there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what were the things, the additional $200,000 that you just didn't account for?
Yeah, the construction was higher. You know, you have pre-opening expenses that were higher. You had to bring in inventory for food. You had to do the testing on that. As I said, some of the construction came in higher. And then we lost money, and then we were losing money. So you needed money to have for working capital. And
how did you lose money?
From day one, because we started with the idea of these incredible quality salads at these low prices, and we were buying from distributors and getting the worst pricing. So
right.
So we had a lot of waste in the system. Our labor was a lot of waste because we didn't know what we were doing. So you had labor waste, you had food waste, and then you were just buying at horrible pricing from distributors. And we did stupid things too in the beginning. We outsourced our cleaning. So like Griffith came from the resort industry, and like they're or fine dining restaurants, and those fine dining restaurants are usually, they use third party outside cleaners that come to their places in the middle of the night to clean them. So we contracted someone to clean our little small restaurant, which was a waste of money. And so that was a cost that we had to shed. There's countless examples of how we lost money in those early days.
So reflecting back, knowing what you know now, looking back at those decisions you made, you talk about outsourcing the cleaning. What were the other things, knowing that you know now, that you would have done differently?
Nothing. I mean, we had very little money.
Yeah. And
the thing is, when you start off with really high quality food at low prices, you're going to lose money because you're not getting the best pricing from whoever you're buying from, right? You don't have the infrastructure in place to have lower costs.
Right.
You don't have efficiencies. You don't have labor. You don't have sales leverage. So your sales aren't as high as they should. So your labor costs are higher. Everything is inefficient. So if you want to start off from the beginning to offer low prices with high quality food, you're going to lose money. And that's just the way it is. And luckily for us, we didn't lose a ton. And it was manageable enough, and we made it work.
So was your goal from day
But yeah, I would not do the outside cleaning for sure. That was a dumb decision.
Was your goal from day one to offer high quality at low prices? And what was your strategy for making sure you would be profitable?
The goal was from day one was to do that. When we did our business planning and cost analysis, we did our costing like a year before, and we never updated it with current pricing.
Got it.
And we were using the pricing that someone was getting from basic resort pricing. And so they already had decent buying power. And so we were using that as a framework, and we thought we could, as a benchmark, and it was like a year old. And so then when we actually went to open, because everything took longer, when we got to open, the prices were outdated. In addition to that, prices that we were getting from distributors were much higher than the benchmark that we had.
Was the first location a build out, or were you?
It was, yeah, it was ground up.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it was a ground lease. We built the building, and it took about 2.5. No, it took 10 weeks to build it.
So what was your mindset as to, we need to build this from the ground up instead of going into like a second generation or being a turnkey?
Yeah, I wanted to do something. We wanted to create our own floor plan, custom. We wanted to be drive-through only, and that's what we wanted to do. And from the day one, that's what we wanted to be. Yeah,
I mean, I think because you had a very holistic approach of what you're trying to create. So knowing what you know now, would you have maybe tried to have done something turnkey? What's the reason why not?
Because that's what we wanted to do. Again, if you're trying to break new ground, you're trying to be disruptive, which we were trying to do, and what we did, you are going to lose money. And so that's just the nature of the beast. And so you have to minimize that as much as possible. And it's really important from day one to set up your identity, who you are. Salad & Go was salads to go. It was a drive-through. And so when we had this really small building, the small building allowed us to have lower costs, lower operating costs. So that was a big benefit. But that's just the way you do it. You build that identity with your team. You build that identity with the community and with the customer base. And I'm assuming that's who you are.
I'm assuming you had low labor expenses because you didn't really have a front of house. You're doing drive-through only. So you really, I'm assuming the people that were prepping the food are also selling the food.
No, I mean, so we had the people prepping were different than the people assembling.
Got it.
And then people taking orders were different than that. Yeah. So our labor wasn't, and we just didn't know, none of us had drive-through experience.
Right.
And so operating a drive-through and then operating a sit-down restaurant, a fast casual restaurant, it's different.
So what were the big things that you just didn't consider that blindsided you?
I mean, it's a very complicated operation to run, labor, super lean, and to do it right. I mean, so it has to be done not per the hour, through the hour. You have to consider things like what your transactions are during this hour, what are your other work that you need to do during that hour. It's very detailed. It's very analytical, and we just didn't have that experience. Right. So until we learned that, and by how we learned that was we brought in outside people to help us with that.
Well, I mean, you were bringing in outside people from, it sounds like almost day one, because you recognize.
Yeah, but the labor, but the operating labor, that efficiently, and we pursue perfection. When you want to, so everyone else has a buffer. And with that buffer, it's fine because they can afford that buffer by charging everyone the higher prices. We basically said from day one, we are not going to do that. We're going to have strict controls in place. I mean, day one, we tried, but we learned a lot. But we're going to have strict controls in place to minimize that waste. I call it waste, right? So it's either labor waste or food waste in order to be able to offer this type of food at this price.
So at what point, when did you open your second location?
Second location opened in, I think it was April 2014.
So a year later, a little over a year.
Yeah, a little over a year later. And that was ground up construction as well. Our third location opened in December, I think the following year, and that was ground up construction as well.
Okay.
All in Gilbert, the first three locations.
Got it. So what were you figuring out, or what did you figure out in that first year that let you scale quickly thereafter? Or do you think you started scaling too soon? No,
we did it right. I mean,
okay. What was
the thing is, like, you're going to continue. If you wait to scale when you think you're ready, you're wasting time, because you're never going to truly learn until you go out there and do it. You literally need to go out there and break things, learn things. You need to fail. When you fail is when you learn. If you wait till you think you're ready, you're waited too long. Like, there's stuff that when we started Angies, we thought we knew everything. But we learned so much, right? And so if I waited till I thought I learned more, I need to learn more, we would have been behind and we might not have ever done it. So you have to go out there, you have to break things, you have to take the risk, and you just got to make it work.
So in that first year, what were your biggest challenges? You talked about cost control.
Yeah, it was labor, money. It was just money. It was running out of money because we were self-funding this thing from the beginning.
Did you change a lot in that first year?
What do you mean?
Like, did you make a lot of changes to get to the point where you felt like you were ready for number two? Or
we just basically said we're going to keep going and we're going to figure it out as we go, and we're going to solve the problems as they come, and that's what we did. We're constantly solving, constantly pushing, constantly moving.
In terms of evolution as a restaurateur, reflecting back, like, what were the biggest like gear shifting moments for you? Like, if opening was gear one, figuring out the efficiency was gear two. Like, what was gear three and gear four?
It was figuring out the efficiencies of what we do is super important. It's top of my mind today for Angies and what it was at Salad.
And we live in a dynamic world; it's constantly changing. So there's always there's infinite opportunities.
We believe in efficiency, so we lead our business by efficiency. That's the number one thing that we do is we focus on efficiency. We don't obsess about revenue. We obsess about efficiency. So every decision we make really says, how does this affect our organization and how can we be more efficient? So that is a constant thing. And I guess the third gear shift would be learning how to grow. So we focused on efficiency. That's how we were able to make it work, right? But I think the third gear shift was how do you grow? Because opening new stores is different than the efficiency part. You have to build a team. You have to have people in there that know what they're doing to do that. You have to have a lot of planning in place, a lot of timing. So I think that was the third gear shift. And then part of the growth is how to do development, how do you do construction, how do you do real estate, how do you do your site selection, how do you optimize that? So I would think that was like the third thing. I think us as people, I think we were generally good leaders. Like, we care. We're servant leaders, like my mom. Like, that was our example. And so we knew how to treat people. Sometimes you have to sometimes it's tough, right? It's not always positive. Sometimes it's tough. You have to push. But as leaders, I thought we were good. I think we always had a good culture from day one. The thing that we had to learn is the efficiency part. And then secondly was the third gear shift, as you said, which was a growth part, which was real estate and development.
Yeah. So what, like reflecting back, like what were the biggest lessons that you were learning that helped you kind of go to the next level? Because I mean, if you opened your first location in 2013, right? By 2016 you had 3 locations because you're doing one a year basically. It sounded like.
No, 2016 we had 6 locations.
6 locations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we opened up our 7th location in 2017, the beginning of December 2016. We opened our 7th location.
7th location.
Yeah, and then 8th location happened May or April 2017.
And you sold the business in 2021.
Correct. Yeah.
How many locations did you get it to at that point?
I think it was around 40.
40 locations.
Yeah.
So there's different like points of evolution. Like there's like the way I like to talk about it is like you're building from day one, you start building layers between you and the work. And every layer you build, there's another opportunity to put somebody else in that place, right? So like it sounds like on day one, you were serving the food, you were making the food.
Yeah, but so day one, I was doing that, but I was also doing the other stuff. So I was never 100% of my time in position. So the people that were in position were Griffith Tran, were Chef Patino.
When you say position, you mean line position?
Yeah, line position, making the food, serving the food, doing the prep.
So
Roshan was in position, Griffith was in position, Chef Patino was in position. I was always there when needed, so I would spend some of my time in position, but most of my time was spent on these other things.
So,
and Paul, our CFO, the finance guy, he was always out of position, focusing on that.
Got it. So it sounds like from day one, you knew that you couldn't be the person doing the work. You had to build layers.
Well, day one, I knew that's not me. I mean, that's not my skill set.
What is your skill set?
I worked in restaurants, and I know I'm not the best server, not the best person in position. I can be okay, but yeah, what my skill set is, I would just say building, coming up with ideas, building, pushing, growing, solving problems. I think that's what makes me different and unique.
Got it. So by 2016, it sounds like you guys are kind of shifting gears again, and you're going from you have now 6, 7 locations.
At that point, we raised private equity.
Okay.
So
when did you know you were ready to? So at this point, was this all just cash flow, and you self-funding all of this?
We were living off credit cards. We were, small investors would give us money here and there, and then cash flow. So from day one, I was trying to raise money, and after we opened, I went there to some private equity and said, "Hey, look at our success." No one was interested. Year 2, no one was interested. Year 3, no one was interested. Year 4, no one was interested. But
what was the vision you were selling to all these people?
Yeah, to make drive-through fast food better and healthier. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. So but the vision is big. So what I've learned is a lot of these private equity firms, they want to take some risk, but they don't want to take the world-changing risk of making something that's never been done before, because it was a salad place, right? It was a drive-through. There was a lot of the feedback we were getting from private equity was, yeah, you created a nice little mousetrap. One private equity firm actually said that you created this nice little mousetrap. So
what do they mean by mousetrap?
Meaning like they thought the opportunity was small. Like, you're doing okay, you're going to do okay, but I don't think the opportunity is big. So they kept on saying no to us there. Then they thought, well, you're doing this food at this high quality food, these low prices, you can't make it profitable, so you're not going to make any money. And they kept on saying no. But we got connected to this one private equity firm, which they were a new one. They were called Volt, and they were based out of New York. They were two young guys, really ambitious, super smart. They were good people, and just by luck, we got connected to them.
What is it that they saw that nobody else could see?
Well, they were big thinkers like us. They are the type of people that will put in the hard work to get things done, and really wanted to get their hands involved in it. So I think other private equity firms really want to get something that's ready to go, and I just think they were looking for something they thought was big. I mean, their whole thesis was the health food on the go was something big, and there's no one else doing it. And if you can make it profitable and grow it, it's a pretty big business. So that was our thesis. That was theirs. We connected on that. And then from there, it's just doing the work to make it happen. And they were really good people. They worked really hard. They had incredible access to industry experts and resources, and also had a ton of money. one of the founders of Volt. His name's Florian. His dad was one of the founders of CVC, which is, I think, the second largest private equity firm in the world. So he had incredible access to just amazing contacts and money.
Right.
And so we really got lucky to have them because everyone else was saying no to us. And so they came on board 2017, first round. Every year after that, we raised money. And by 2021 comes, 2021, like 2020, after COVID, they are the largest owner. They want to start growing faster than what we wanted to do. And the relationship started to go south. And then at that point, we just came up with an exit and then we left.
Okay. I mean, that's what a lot of people hope for. They want to be able to grow something to the point where they can just get out. Was that on your radar, or is that something?
So as soon as we took private equity, I felt it wasn't my business anymore.
I mean, it sounds like from day one, like the goal
I know I wanted to,
right.
But I didn't know what that entailed.
So what do you know now?
When you take other people's money, and especially if it's institutional money, they're going to have a say, and then they're going to be part of that decision process, and they want to be part of the decision process. And if you don't like to be told a lot of things about your business and how to do it, then try to stay away from private equity as long as you can. And that's what we've tried to do here with Angies.
So yeah, and this is, I mean, obviously I wanted to talk about what you built with Salad & Go. I mean, crazy success. 40
it's
locations.
good. Trust me, like it's a good business.
Yeah.
What we've created with Angies is the true masterpiece. Like everything we've done with Angies is what we learned from Salad & Go, what we learned from the world today. Let me ask you this: if you came up with an idea in 2000, if you came up with an idea in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you came up with an electric car design in 2011, right? 13 years later, do you think your software, your hardware, everything would be better?
You would hope that you would constantly be improving, right?
I mean, look at Tesla, the first Tesla Roadster.
Right.
Right. It wasn't their chassis. It wasn't their frame. The battery technology wasn't as good. How they designed the cars, they use a skateboard chassis today. Everything about the software, everything about the cars today are just so much far advanced than that. So the way I'll give you as an example is I came up with the idea of Salad & Go in 2011. That's the way I saw the world then. Then you learn after, 13 years, you're going to tell me everything you've learned and experienced. You're not, when you try to do something new, you're not going to create something better.
Right. 100%.
100%. So what we created with Angies, this is our masterpiece. So we want to be known for being the founders of Angies. In the future, I don't want to be having the discussions about Salad & Go because that's something in the past.
Right. Exactly.
I want to be having discussions of what we created with Angies because Angies is a masterpiece. Angies is not the next big thing. It is the big thing that will define the restaurant industry because what we truly have done is truly different than what we did at Salad & Go. We took what we did at Salad & Go and really took it to another level with Angies.
I mean, I want to talk about Angies.
No, I get it. I'm not. This is part of the process now, but I'm just saying in the future. When I started the conversation, I said what we did in the past was the past, right?
Right.
I want to be defining what I do today and moving forward. And so, in the future, Angies will be the big thing. And so when people will be talking to me, they'll be talking to me about Angies because that is the once in a generation business model.
Right. I mean, we can either transition and start talking about Angies and talk about how you're doing it differently today, or we can reflect back and say,
keep going. Keep going on your path.
Because what I'm really interested in is because how many people get to have that level of success? I'm not going to ask you how much you were able to get in selling the business of Salad & Go. I think that's personal information. I won't keep you from sharing it, but I'm assuming it was enough to have a considerable amount of money.
We did, yeah. We've invested. Rashan and I have invested like $15.1 million into Angies.
Wow.
My brother-in-law, Paul, has invested like $7 million into Angies.
So not only do you have this 7 or we'll say 10 years of experience of building something and learning through trial and error, so you're saying you're transforming as a person. And that's really what we're here to focus on is what was your evolution as a professional? So I guess before we start talking about what you started doing differently at Angies, reflecting back, knowing what you know now, hindsight being 2020, and we've identified a couple of the things, taking private equity and knowing that
unfortunately, right now we're at the stage where we need to take the money because when we started Angies, again, we were super ambitious and bullish. And so we created this incredible infrastructure that is super expensive, we built an infrastructure basically to operate 200 stores.
Right. The only other thing I really want to focus on before
but unfortunately, we are in the position where we have to raise money, but we're going to be selective on where the money comes from and making sure that the things that we learned from that first marriage make the second marriage work better.
How many lobster locations do you have today?
We have 8 Angie's Food Concepts locations.
So within all the 3 brands,
there's 2. No, Burger hasn't started yet.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So between the 2 brands, there's 8 locations.
Yeah. So we have 3 standalone Angie's Prime locations.
So here's what I'm curious about, because you haven't gotten to the point where you've really gotten to scale like you did with Salad and Go. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you identified before that one of the evolutionary things for you was in the real estate development, finding the locations. And that was like another level of operations for you, because you had to get out from the 4 walls, and now you're working on growing across different states, right?
Yep.
So what were the big lessons you learned in terms of how to go from being, from a multi-unit operator where you're looking to grow managers to run those locations, to really trying to take something where how many were you opening in a year at one point while you were still with the company?
Like 12.
It's a totally different beast, right?
Yeah.
So what was your evolution?
Yeah. I mean, so you mentioned it. You have to bring in people that can do the work, right? That can implement the work, manage the work, and enhance the work. And we did that at Salad and Go. When we started Angie's, from day one, that's what we did. Like I was used to running that type of business. So like from day one, I had someone who headed up real estate. I brought them over from Salad and Go. I had someone that did supply chain. I brought the best people from Salad and Go to Angie's because that's the organization I wanted to have. I wanted the best people, and I wanted to grow that at a smart, efficient, and quick pace. And we know we needed to do that because we had all this infrastructure. So from day one, I had, a head of store operations. I had like a district manager. I had like all this overhead, but that's how I wanted that business to be. So like in a quick amount of time, we got to four locations, then 5, then 6. And now, we just opened our 8th one last month.
So you kind of identified that when you take on equity, you have other people that are sitting at the table that want to have influence on the direction of the business and where it's going. And for you, there are things that you probably disagreed with, I'm assuming. But what were the major things that pulled Salad and Go off course that you just that were your breaking points? Like
So I think we were incredibly on course when I was there.
Okay.
We got to the point where we raised the starting wage to $15 an hour.
Wow.
Which was the highest in the drive-through space.
This is 2021?
2020.
Yeah, 20.
We were serving like 36 organic ingredients. We dropped the price from $7.18 a salad to $5.74. So we made it more affordable to more people. We were faster. Like our speed of service was like 1 minute and 55 seconds compared to, 3 minutes and 30 seconds where they are today. We dropped price of drinks from like, I think it was $1.99 to 99 cents. We did a lot of things to make something that was a true luxury, which is organic, affordable to more people. Our efficiencies at the store, our labor was super efficient. Food costs were where they needed to be.
So was there
our turnover was low. I mean, everything was good. It's just the idea then was this thing's working. And this is right after COVID, like the early stages of COVID.
Right. How lucky were you to have a drive-through concept?
Yeah. And so at that point we started like growing quicker, right? So because we had a drive-through. So at that point, the investors truly wanted to like grow this thing fast.
Isn't it kind of funny how it goes from you can't make anybody give you money to like now your doors are starting to come knocking down? Like
no, at that point, people were still not knocking down our
Really?
doors. It was just the investors that we had. We had
Oh,
Volt.
got it.
Volt was, they saw what we saw early on, and then when they saw it work, they saw it even more. And they're like, now it's time to grow fast. Let's go. And at that point, it was still COVID. My mom passed away in March, like 4 months before that. I was in a mentality of let's consolidate our strengths here in Phoenix and Arizona and Nevada. Let's grow here. And they wanted to open up Texas.
So why did you think that was the way to go? The path that you thought was right in
because we had one distribution center, production distribution center here in Phoenix. We were still learning that, still growing that. and we needed to get better at that. We needed to get stronger at that. We needed to solve some problems. And I knew
What were the problems you had with that?
Oh, you go from like operating, 20 stores out of that to 100, 60 stores in that. That's a huge problem to solve. So you have to figure out how to create all that production in that space. How do you manage,
distribute it?
How do you bring it in? How do you store it? How do you produce it? How do you bag it? How do you assemble it? How do you distribute it out? Yeah, those are huge problems, right?
Right.
And so we need to continue to solve for those, get more efficient, keep improving quality, pursue perfection.
Well, there's one thing that, sorry, go ahead.
And then doing that in one market's a lot easier than.
Why?
Because you're there. I'm there every day, and then the team's there. Your best people are there. As soon as you jump to another market, you then have to bifurcate your team.
Right.
And so you have people go there, and then they
bifurcate. What's that mean?
Just separate.
Okay.
Yeah, like you're basically splitting, and so you're split. I think I'm saying the word right.
Well, I've never heard it before, so it's very impressive.
Yeah, someone, his name's Jerry Schaefer. He's been a mentor of mine, and he's one of the most smartest, amazing people. But he always used that term. But he's like a real estate genius. But anyways, but if you consolidate all your strengths here in one area, you're just gonna be stronger. Yeah. Is that correct?
You killed it. To divide into two branches or parts, bifurcate a beam of light.
Yeah. So I wanted to stay here. I wanted to be Arizona, Nevada, have our strength be here. By doing that, I thought we could keep our labor costs low, our food costs low. I knew as soon as you opened up that other market, your labor is going to go up, food costs are going to go up.
Yeah.
Everything is going to go in a direction I didn't want it to go. And sometimes that's necessary to break that ground and go through that process, but not for the giving up what was given up, which was the quality, the freshness, and then the wage. Right now they're paying their team still $15 an hour, and that's basically what McDonald's and Taco Bell's paying.
Right.
So to me, that's bad. That's a negative thing.
So a lot of what we have been discussing up to this point has been very tactical, very process driven, very like you're looking at this as like a machine. We haven't really talked a lot about culture, and then we just got into a little bit of the culture side of things. And what happens, like I like to use the P. Terry approach. I use them as an example all the time. I think they had like 17 units in Austin before they ever decided to go to a different city. But what happens there is you create such a cult following locally that what ends up happening is your target market, the people, your loyalty ends up going to a different city. And then when you decide to go to a different city after your people that have already or who are already loyal to you have gone to that city, they see you come to that city and go, oh, finally, my favorite place just came here.
Yeah.
And when the analogy I like to use too is impact. When you put all of your energy into a tight space, you can make a deeper impact. Think about pushing your finger into the dirt, tight space, lots of pressure. You go deeper. Now try to do the same level of depth with your whole palm in the dirt.
It's exactly with any business.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think what happens is when you start getting to the point where you're putting all this energy, hyper focus into a small region, you can make a bigger impact on people's lives. And what ends up happening is you have to create opportunity for those people. And that's only when you start thinking about going outwards is like, I need to, if I don't create the opportunity for this person, they're going to go find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
you create an impact. So you go from 10 stores in Phoenix to 12 to 14. There's like 40 locations of Salad and Goes today in Phoenix. So there's a lot of opportunity there. Then you got Tucson, right?
Yeah. There's
like 7-8 locations in Tucson, none in Flagstaff yet, right? So that's all within Arizona where you could create opportunity. But then you got Vegas, which is, it's 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours away, right?
Right.
And there's opportunity there. That's where I wanted the opportunity to be. Have that team focus on those areas and then use that team. Because when you go, you can bring some of your team to Texas, but not everyone's going to want to go, right?
Right.
So you're going to have to hire new people who aren't familiar with the culture. And it's really hard to continue that. And especially when you grow fast, turnover's high, your culture, and especially if your leaders who know the culture most aren't at the stores every day, your culture kind of goes away.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
And what you're talking about is centrifugal circle scaling. Right? Like that.
Yeah, like Walmart.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, awesome stuff.
We have to interrupt today's episode to let you know that every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, Restaurant Systems Pro CEO Fred Langley is going live to teach you everything you need to know to run a profitable restaurant from soup to nuts. All you gotta do is click the link below.
The year now, in terms of your timeline, we identify 2021. You sell your shares of Salad & Go, and the business was heading in a direction you didn't want to go. So
that started in 2020.
2020, got it. But you end up
and let me just preface, let me just back up a little bit,
please.
So again, I mentioned the private equity firm Volt, right?
Right.
I said they were good people. They are good people. I said they're super smart. They are super smart. Like when you get married. Good people get married, right? And just sometimes they just can't agree on something, right?
Man, people change too.
And they change, and sometimes you just can't agree on something.
Right.
And this was like a deal breaker that we couldn't agree on.
What was the specific thing you couldn't agree on?
The expansion to Dallas.
Got it.
To do it that fast. Yeah.
Got it.
So that was basically the reason for the split, not because they were not good people. They're like some of the nicest people, and we're lucky to have them as a private equity partner.
How do you keep it so professional? What's your advice for that?
Like what?
Well, your points right now, like you still have a lot of respect for this organization. You were able to part ways. You were able to, cash out.
I have respect for them, and I understand their decision. I don't agree with it. And I think what happened, I was proven right, but I still have respect for them as people. They work their butts off. They're super competitive. They're super smart.
What were you right about?
That everything. So everything that I thought would happen, food costs would go up, quality would go down, labor costs would go up. They would get slower. All the things that I thought was super important.
Right.
It happened, and it happened worse than I thought. And then the only things I didn't think were that went right on their part is that they grew faster than I even thought they could.
Right.
And the company in turn became more valuable than I thought it could too. So everything that mattered to me, which was, at the store level, the team,
the values,
culture, the turnover is so much higher than it was.
Right.
Wages are the same. Food costs are higher. The quality is much worse. The freshness is, the shelf life is doubled. Got rid of all organics. All those things to me make a difference and are super important. But yet they've been able to open stores, open them really fast. I mean, their real estate team's amazing, development team's amazing, and they've been able to do it. So hats off to them for being able to open stores that quickly. But the things that matter to me aren't as important to them.
Are you still emotionally connected to Salad & Go? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of.
It's your child.
No, it's not. No, so I view Salad & Go as something I did in the past. It's it's a business. It was almost like another team I was on, right? So I look back on it in that regard. I'm no longer part of that team, almost like how Angies was last year. Angies was that was last year. So I'm not connected to them, but I do track them because I want to know how that's progressing because it's almost like a case study.
Yeah.
So how often do you get the opportunity to see something that you think is going to happen actually come to fruition and happen and be proven right and then shape which was your business theory and now being able to use that experience into your new business.
Right.
And things not to do and to learn from that.
How do you detach yourself emotionally from it though?
I'm pissed off as hell. It drives me today. Cause they basically said, Rashan and Tony, you're not needed anymore. You did all the hard work. Now all we need to do is grow. And we said, no, there's so much more work to be done. And so at that point, they just basically said you weren't needed anymore. That pisses me off. They basically said, and it goes back to my childhood. I never felt I was good enough. Right.
Right.
And they told me I wasn't good enough. And so that motivated me a ton to do what I'm doing here at Angies,
right,
and to create the true masterpiece.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that behind every great concept, behind every great brand, whatever you want to call it, behind every great restaurant, organization, it's people behind that. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't have a great concept without having great people or a person behind it. So yeah, 100%. A brand isn't just the colors you choose to use and the font you choose to use and the food that you're putting out. It's the energy, the life behind it. So I 100% disagree with them that like if they really wanted to scale it, it's about the human elements that make it last.
Yeah, but one thing you mentioned in the beginning when we first met, you said that the evil, like the big companies or big corporations. One thing I have learned is that you could put enough effort and force and money into something, you could basically trick it into working.
Right.
So, I mean, if you look at the cultures of some of these really large companies, how great are they? How's their turnover? How strong? I'm being serious. Not great companies, but these big companies.
Right. I made a funny face because I agree with
you.
Yeah,
it's not that great. So what happens is that as long as you have enough momentum, enough money behind you, and enough people doing the work, you can open enough locations. And as long as you have a decent enough offering, you could basically just keep going and have enough locations to where you're almost big enough not to fail, big enough to fail.
Well, that's
too big to fail.
That's a lot of the same conundrum I believe that exists with marketing, where like if you're willing to just kind of like go through the motions and put enough resources behind promoting yourself,
for sure, absolutely,
like you can just keep on going.
Yeah, because you're attracting new customers,
right?
And as long as you can keep on that funnel of new people coming in.
Yeah, all marketing is rule following. Do these things, optimize your SEO, optimize the algorithms, and you can stay top of mind if you have enough money to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same, that same concept is behind a franchise or a big corporation.
But like a company like McDonald's, it's their real estate. So they're always going to be top of mind because they're on they're at the business, they're at the intersection that's most convenient to the drivers in their trading area, and they're most visible. So and they're everywhere. So they're always going to be top of mind. And as long as their product is good enough, they're going to be okay.
Let's be honest. A Big Mac is delicious. It tastes really good. Like, it's not like when you know more about how it's made, it makes it not taste as good.
I don't know.
Like,
I mean, I think it's good enough. Like, I mean, I don't think it's great.
That secret sauce is good.
Is it?
I mean,
well, I mean, I think
you grow up on it, there's almost a sense of like nostalgia there. Yeah. Like when you like you taste that, it brings you.
I think their French fries are good.
Comfort. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think their French fries are good, but their food is good enough. Like it's
engineered to be tasty. It might not be healthy. It might not be good for the environment.
I mean, the French fries are real potatoes.
Yeah.
But there's no way you can eat a burger from there and say it's like as good as a real good burger somewhere else.
But it's
good enough. It's good enough.
For $6,
it's good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I think so. If you get to a point where you're good enough, and you have the size, you have the scale, you have the marketing, you could be top of mind.
Right.
It works.
Yeah. And what Tony was talking about earlier, when we were talking in the pre-interview chat, I said that when I first started the podcast, my focus was on the independents because I wanted to help the independent compete with the big corporations of the world. And what I've realized is that in order, like the larger organizations between, say, 10 and 50 locations, I think there's something to be learned there. There's a balance between the big corporations of the world and the little guys, because you need to provide opportunity for people and security for people. And I think it's hard to do that as an independent, a one unit store. So like if you want to provide security and opportunity and do all these things, like you have to scale. So I'm much more interested in.
I think you could be very successful as
scale of sales.
No, as a single store.
Yeah,
operator.
but you still got to scale something. Like
you still have to. So the only thing you have to do as an operator is make sure your sales are growing with inflation.
Right.
Okay. So you can cover that. Other than that, you don't need to have these 20% year-over-year growth. Like my cousin is an amazing restaurateur in Boston. His name's Teddy. And Teddy has one location. And the thing keeps pumping out more revenue year over year because the food's really good, the prices are good, and he's an amazing operator. Like he's so in tune with everything about his business. And so that's incredible success. I talked to him. When we launched our fried cod for Angie's Lobster, I called Teddy. I said, Teddy, what do you think about this? Many things I run by him because I know he knows his stuff.
Right.
And so that's success to me. I mean, he continued to make his stores do really good. His store does
no doubt
great revenue. He provides good living to his teams that he has. Obviously, there's not that career path, right?
Well, that's the thing. So
but if you're someone who is okay, making $25 an hour,
I think
that's good, and you get 40 hours a week. That's a good living. Right?
I think those people are exist, but I think as we give people more exposure to what's possible, I think you're finding more and more people want to grow. I don't know if it's
there's those people, but there's also people that want to clock in and clock out.
Right.
Happy.
My sister is one of those people.
Yeah, doing the work that they're doing, which is great because the world needs those people. I mean, the beautiful thing about life is that we're all different, and we need to be different.
Let's get into Angies.
Okay.
I think I want to get into Angies, and I want to make sure we have time to get into Angies, and because you guys now are 3 years in, right?
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, I mean, but we incorporated the company at the end of 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
So you said that like this is like, kind of like your masterpiece. Like
it is, but you thought you would think I would have learned everything and started Angies, and there would be no mistakes. But there have been a ton of mistakes and a ton of learnings, and that's why I said is if you wait till you think you're perfect, you're never going to do it because you're never going to learn until you actually do it. Right. And so there's been a crap load of learnings just with this business because it's different. So here we're truly vertically integrated. We have our own wharf where wild caught seafood is caught. We process that we're basically like a cow farm, a slaughterhouse, right? And then we distribute that to the stores. I mean, that's basically what we do. And we had to learn that from the beginning. And that was really tough. And then learned to make a lobster blend that was sustainable, affordable, and delicious. And so most places that sell lobster rolls just do claw knuckle meat. We basically said, there's this lobster, and we buy every lobster from the fisherman. Let's use all the lobster meat. You got tail meat, you got leg meat, you got body meat, and of course you got the claw knuckle meat. Let's make that into a blend and put that in a roll. It's almost like you get a roll and you're getting a whole lobster, which is true because one lobster only yields about 3 ounces of meat.
Right.
So you're basically getting one live lobster in every roll. And to do that, to learn that and to make it delicious and efficient was incredibly hard. So we had to learn that from day one.
So if I'm reading between the lines, it sounds like when you could reinvent yourself, the way that you wanted to do it, that was really in line with who you are and what you always wanted to do, was the vertical integration, was the getting the high quality product and getting it accessible to everybody. And now you had the bankroll because you were able to scale something and sell it and start over. Mm-hmm. So we know how you had the money. Why lobsters? Why was that the place for you to start? Because you guys, the other thing I love, I just want to get this out because I want to make sure it comes out, is that I think your approach to doing business is genius. And this is how I would do it if I was opening a restaurant tomorrow. Have an overarching brand, i.e. Angies. And then for every menu item, build a whole concept around it and scale and do one thing really well and have the overarching recognized brand. If I'm opening a restaurant tomorrow, it's going to be unstoppable this, unstoppable that, unstoppable this. And then just put all of your energy into mastering that one thing. So with that being said, back to...
Well, we started just to do lobster.
Yeah.
Okay. And then why lobster? It goes back to making luxuries affordable. So with Salad & Go, at the time when I was there, we wanted to make organic affordable to more people. Well, we already did that.
Is there such a thing as non-organic lobster meat?
I mean, it's wild caught.
There is no farmed lobster, right?
No, yeah, it's wild caught.
Yeah.
It's 100%. So, but organic means vegetables and all these other things. So with when I consider the ultimate luxury food, it's really two things to me. It's wild caught seafood and prime USDA prime beef. Okay. So we basically said, let's start with lobster, which is in protein that most people have heard of. And if they've had it, most people, it's been a once a year special treat. And then there's a group that's never had it because it's too expensive or just not accessible. So we basically said, okay, there's this one item that we think we can make a big business out of because it has incredible name recognition, but it hasn't been used that much, right? So that was one. Two, we wanted to honor my mom. My mom worked in seafood restaurants her whole life in Boston.
What restaurants? I grew up in southern New Hampshire, so I'm just
okay.
My family's from Boston.
Yeah, so No Name Restaurant in the Fish Pier.
Okay.
Jimmy's Harborside in the Fish Pier. She then worked at my uncle's restaurant, which was called Avenue Seafood. She did her own restaurant called Angela Seafood.
Got it.
So just mom and pop stuff.
So homage to mom, lobsters.
Yeah. So we basically said, my mom loved seafood. I grew up with it. It's exactly where Boston seafood is it.
Right.
And then what's the thing that we could sell that no one else is selling that we think we can make a big business out of, which was lobster and then wild caught seafood.
So was
because it's the ultimate luxury. I mean, it's truly saying, if we're going to basically create a company and make luxury foods affordable to everyone,
right.
What is the ultimate luxury that we want to basically stake our put our flag in the dirt and say, this is what we stand for. And basically everyone know from that day on that they're truly mean what the heck they're talking about, that they're able to make this incredibly high price thing affordable to more people.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you know the market way better than I do, but Luke's Lobster was around at this point.
Yeah.
And
There's Cousins, all those places.
Yeah, those are the two that
and there was a lot of places selling lobster. Yeah.
Yeah. So were you getting inspiration from these places?
Not at all.
Were they even on your radar?
In fact, I didn't even want to sell lobster rolls.
Why?
Because they were done. They're boring to me. Meaning like it's steamed lobster.
Yeah.
Mayo and butter. And then I believe consumers today want more bold eating, want something more craveable. And so the initial idea of Angies was really to give an alternative to Cane's, to Chick-fil-A. And if you look at our menu, we have fried lobster tails, right? We have the spicy honey fried lobster sandwich. We have these things that are more similar to what you'd find at a fried chicken restaurant than at a traditional lobster place.
But you still do have the traditional options.
We do. We have the lobster rolls, and which is a big part of what we do. But I believe the future growth of our company is within these things that are competitive to drive-through chicken. Not like I don't view Luke's and Cousins and Mason's as competition, because
different business models.
How can they be? I mean, they're selling something that's $25,
right?
And we're selling it for much less. And then again, it's just traditional recipes. Like that's not the future of how I think consumers want to eat.
But in terms of scalability, I think lobster is an awesome avenue in terms because it's so like if you're theoretically, I know you're not doing this, but if you were just doing lobster rolls, traditional, like you pointed out, it's meat, it's mayonnaise, it's bread.
Yeah.
And the level of throughput, you don't need to train somebody really like culinary skills so much to be able to do that. It's streamlined. It's a very easy thing to scale.
It's the same with our fried lobster tails. So we take a Maine lobster tail, we cut it in half. This all happens in Maine.
Right.
So it's cut in half by machine. It's then battered and breaded and flash frozen.
Right.
And then that comes to everything that's shipped out of Maine, all wild caught seafood is flash frozen in a nitrogen tunnel in like 14 minutes. So it traps in flavor, texture, all that stuff.
Right.
And so that's sent here to Phoenix, and then they're throwing it in a fryer that's programmed. They press a button, the fryer goes down. When it's done, it goes up. So the whole Angie's Lobster is the most efficient, scalable business that's ever been created. Wow. Angie's Prime is definitely more complicated. Not as complicated as Salad & Go, but not as streamlined as Angie's Lobster.
Right. I want to make sure that we talk about vertical integration because I think that is a subject that I'm really interested in. I think we've already talked about and communicated the power of doing one thing really well and how you can build a system and just process around that to create it and make it more sustainable and scalable, right? But I think part of the answer of fixing the broken food system and part of when I say the restaurant industry has the power to change the world, the mission statement of this podcast is to change the world by empowering the restaurant industry.
I think it can because it's such a big industry. It's used now more than ever because a lot more people, more of your eating happens outside of home.
Right.
And that's going to continue as people just get lazier. It just, where everything is now
more
is such
efficient.
Yeah. Everything now is, I want it now. And cooking yourself dinner, buying the groceries it's too hard for a lot of people in the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. But to the point, I think that there's a lot of things that are broken with this world. I think the food system's broken. And I think part of the solution of fixing the food system is by having people who come in and own the entire process from beginning to end to fragment the food system, right? So you're going in, you're buying a pier, right? You're paying the fishermen. Are they on like that's what I want to get into? Like, what is like the structure?
Yeah, fishermen are independent contractors. They're so in Maine, the fishermen have to be each boat has to be an independent business.
Got it.
So like I can't go and operate my own fleet.
Right. Why is that?
They just want to keep the
money,
the identity of Maine as a lobster.
I think it's good that they're doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely because it
is it frustrating for you?
I mean, like anything, there's wins and losses,
right.
But the fishermen do really well, and they make good money, and they're proud of it.
They're not making any less money, even if you're selling the lobster for less, right?
No, we buy it from them at market pricing,
right?
So they make the same.
So where does the vertical integration come into play to make it more affordable?
Well, because we have our own. So let's say I'm like Cousins, for example, right? So Cousins will buy from a processor.
Right.
And let's say the processor is called Ready Seafood. Ready is one of the largest lobster processors in the world.
Got it.
So let's say you buy from Ready Seafood. Ready Seafood is a processor, but the processor then buys from Wharfs. Okay, and Wharf's a separate company. And so the Wharf buys a lobster from a fisherman at $5 a pound, but then the Wharf has to make money, right? So they add in a markup like 60 cents.
What is a wharf?
It's a pier.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a working place where fishermen get their bait, their fuel, right?
Got it.
They unload, they load up, they unload, they sell their catch.
Got it.
So the Wharf will buy from the fisherman at $5 a pound, and then they'll mark it up to, let's say, $5.60 a pound and sell it to the processor, Ready Seafood.
Got it.
So just think about this. Remember I told you it takes one live lobster to create 3 ounces of meat.
Got it.
So at 60 cents on a live pound, right, to create a pound of ready-to-eat meat, you basically need 5 lobsters, right? So 5 lobsters times 60-cent markup is $3 a pound. So right out of the gate, Cousins is paying $3 a pound more because of the markup that they're paying.
Because they're buying from the processor.
Buying from the processor.
So you guys own your
and
own
then
work
we own our processing. So
and your
then
own processing.
So then instead of the processor has to make money, right? So they have to mark up their goods, and that's generally $2, $3, $4 a pound on finished goods.
Okay.
So we're basically cutting out about $5 to $7 a pound in markup.
Got it.
in our vertical integration.
Got it. What about in terms of legal entities? So are you an LLC series?
No, we have one entity. It's Angies Food Concepts LLC.
Got it. And in terms of vertical integration, are each one of those, so
it's all under one entity.
all under one entity.
Yeah.
So it's just different. So like each element of the, I mean, is that the
It's
right way
no
to do
difference.
it, do you think?
It's no difference than having a store in store 1 and store 2. Some companies will have a separate LLC for every store.
Right.
And there's a lot of companies that will have their different business units, separate LLCs. Just simplicity, we wanted everything to be under one LLC.
Well, I guess the benefits of having the separated LLCs is if
It's protection. It's
protecting.
Liability.
Right. So I guess.
And I don't think about the world that way. I think of
What way specifically?
what's the worst that can happen.
Got it.
I think of from a preponderance of so basically what's the best outcome that can happen and not the worst, because the person who thinks that a legal person like a lawyer or a person who comes from a position of conservation will create what you just said. We'll create all these different LLCs to protect them, but scaling that business is because there's all these legal entities. There's complexity to it. There's cost to that.
Right. I think there's one element to a benefit. I don't want to call it like a privilege, but like it is a privilege. It was a privilege. I think what's different about you, what you're able to do is that you were able to get liquidity going into that, where you have cash flow, where you can pay people to do a job. But if you're somebody else who's trying to scale something and you don't have that cash flow behind you,
we don't have cash flow. The company still loses money today. That's
okay.
part. As I said,
this is why you don't make assumptions, right?
Yeah. So we basically we've been self-funded, right?
Right.
I said we're about $26 million into the business.
Right.
So we basically self-funded the business, and now we basically R&D'd the model, and now we're ramping to profitability.
R&D'ing the model, meaning learning how to run the wharf.
Learning how to do the wharf, learning how to do processing, learning how to process beef.
So
we're processing our own beef.
So you're doing literally everything.
Yes.
So
we make our own drinks, our own sauces, everything.
I think vertical integration, I think that, hey, I want to own a company. To your point, like if we're using your example, like if I don't want to learn and do all the R&D and to how to figure out how to be a wharf.
Let someone else do it.
So you find a partner.
Save a lot of money.
to run that business, right? Because they have experience. So you protect. So if you have a partnership with somebody, then they own just that element of the business. So if for whatever reason, like, would you want a partner who knows how to run a wharf to have equity in your restaurants?
No, I want to own the entire thing, end-to-end control.
Right, but
because whenever you have a partner, they have their own vision. They want to operate a certain way.
Right. And I think it's
the same reason why we don't franchise.
Right. So I think that would be the only reason why you would want to protect yourself if you need partners to scale. But I feel like you were able to do it on your own, which I think is a superpower because not many people would be able to do that.
Yeah, not many people would be willing to lose $26 million in like a
they have the option to do that,
or have the option to do it in a 2.5 period of time. Yeah.
Right.
And, but think about this, like Tesla, for example, what a company that's built their entire infrastructure, charging infrastructure, battery infrastructure, manufacturing infrastructure, right? And software infrastructure, all of that. That takes a ton of money in learning, breaking, fixing. It goes back to my days selling engineering analysis software. Like there's a process of R&D. You have to come up with the idea. You have to build the prototype. You have to fix it. You have to break it. And you have to iterate. This iteration is constant, and it takes time and it takes money.
Right.
And so to do that, you have to be willing to invest. And so luckily for us, we've done it much quicker. Like it took us like 7 years to really crack that code at Sell and Go. Well, it's taken us 2.5 years at Angie. So we out of the gates, we made a ton of mistakes, but we were able to solve them and get to a process of ramp quicker.
Right. So I guess the only question I have, we're at present day. What is the future? Like, what is the vision in like knowing what you know now, if this is your masterpiece, like really getting to like what it is you're trying to do here and how it's different and how it's better.
Yeah. So the next for the rest of this year, we will open 8 to 11 locations. They'll open in Phoenix, 2 in Tucson, 1 in Flagstaff, and 1 in Vegas. And so that is the immediate goal because we need to get to about 16 to 17 stores where we're profitable. So we get to profitability. And then next year we have our pipeline of stores that because we've built our infrastructure, right? So now it's building a 200 store base to optimize the infrastructure we have. So now it's to get to that 200, right? So 2025, we have a pipeline of stores that we're going to open, right? Build and open. And we're going to keep on opening, the Angie's Prime, the Angie's Lobster, and then the Angie's Burger truly exists to make Angie's Prime more efficient because we butcher our own beef, our USDA Prime beef.
And you own your own farms?
No, not yet, but that'll be amazing one day.
Right.
But right now we buy from slaughterhouses.
Got it.
We bring in the primal cut and we butcher it, but we waste today 24% of that cut because we have no home for it.
Right.
So Angie's Burger exists to take that 24%, put it in a blend with our blend for Angie's Burger will be USDA Prime Ribeye, USDA Prime Chuck, and USDA Prime Top Sirloin. That's going to be our blend to make the most amazing burger.
Aren't any of these available right now? Because that sounds so good. I already followed your Instagram.
Chef is testing them. If you want to go, we're launching it Tuesday at our Central Thomas store as a test store.
Okay.
So if you're around,
I would love to be there for that.
Yeah, hang out with Chef. And Chef's here today.
Cool.
So if you want to see him after, but yeah, we'll be, and he's doing R&D right now on the burgers. So
this is why I live in a camper.
Yeah, well, you can travel and experience the best food.
Exactly.
But these burgers truly will be awesome because it's the best quality meat.
It sounds awesome.
So being able to use that meat for burger, burger exists for Prime, right? To make Prime more efficient. So the idea is to grow burger just to support Prime. So as many locations we need to support Prime will be burgers.
Well, yeah.
And then to grow Angie's Lobster and then grow Angie's Prime. So that's the most immediate future. And that will be Angie's Food Concepts.
The only downside I see of that, and maybe this isn't, and it shouldn't be a downside, but it's like if you have, say, Angie's Burger catches fire, right? And like that's the concept that most people want. You're there's a governor on it.
No, I mean, we're not dumb. I mean, so if we're not going to governor it just because, so we could still get the benefit for Angie's Prime and then still grow Angie's Burger. You get it? Because we're using that waste. At a certain point, if you're selling more burgers, then you can use up that waste. Then you're just going to open up more burger stores, and then we'll have to use the whole cut of not just the trimmings of the top sirloin.
Got it.
We'll have to use the whole cut. So we can do that. There's no problem. I just don't think it will be as big as the other two.
Right.
If I'm wrong, great. If I'm right, great. So there's no downside to me for doing burger.
So why not go all in on Angie's Lobster and just scale that? Why also open a second concept that's a different, like a whole different food?
Why we did Angie's Prime is that we needed to diversify our our mix for food costs. So from the get-go, our food costs were super high for Angie's Lobster because we were learning that process to process in Maine and do those other things. So we brought in Prime to say, let's bring in something that still has amazing quality ingredients that are low prices, but will inevitably have lower food costs than lobster. So we basically said out of the gate, because eventually we need to get to profitability, right? So Angie's Prime provides us lower food costs. The labor is higher, but the food costs are lower, and it just helps us profitability wise when coupled in with lobster. As we grow lobster, we get more efficient at processing. So that was the reason why for Angie's Prime. And then also I wanted to build something that would be better, kind of directly competitive to Salad and Go and Chipotle, but something that I thought would be much better. And so if I was going to build a Salad and Go today, what would I build? I would build an Angie's Prime, because I'm going to have grilled to order meats that are served on the go, grilled to order prime meats that are served on the go in the way people want to eat today, through a warm bowl, a grilled burrito, or a fresh cut salad, right? On the go.
Right.
Tastes amazing. It's low cost. So that's what we did. So we basically said Angie's Prime was going to be something that we think will be a transaction king for Angie's Food Concepts, because the food tastes amazing. It has high frequency, and it's something that people can eat many times a week in many places. So Angie's Lobster per store, I think, will do the highest revenue. Angie's Prime, I think, will do the most transactions. And then Angie's Burger will do the least of both, but will support the organization.
I still have so many questions for you, man. But I want to respect your time. I know you have a very busy day, and I have a few questions to ask before we wrap up. One more question relative to what you've shared with us. I know that you have a proprietary drive-through approach, like business model. What makes it unique? Yeah.
So what we did at Salad and Go, we're truly the only ones to do drive-through only, right?
Right.
When we did Angie's Lobster, we said we got to be more efficient. So we had to have much lower labor costs than we had at Salad and Go. So we basically said at Angie's, you're going to check yourself out. So at the speaker post, there's a processing, a card terminal. You're going to tap, swipe, or pay. We're not going to do any cash. Then you're going to drive up to the window. You're not going to interact with a person. We're going to have your food on the shelf. You're going to take it and go. So because of all this, we have one less person working per hour. So it helps us be just more efficient.
What technology are you leaning on for that?
Oh, it's just regular POS. Right now we use Micros. So we did test out, we are testing out Toast. It hasn't worked as well in the drive-through format, but for like a fast casual setting, it's amazing actually.
Check out Sunday.
The
Sunday app.
Software, yeah.
I think that might be an option for you.
Yeah, well,
so grab and go approach.
We'll take a look at it. But the drive-through space is very different. It's very complicated because you need to be able to take an order here, process an order here before it's cashed out. There's a lot of things going in between. In the early days of Salad and Go, we tried to look at the web-based platforms, and it just didn't work.
So I really threw a wrench in your system when I showed up with my camper and I had to walk up to the window, huh?
Which one? No, this is a DC store.
No. So I went to a Prime in Gilbert.
Which one? The Gilbert Creek?
Yeah. And there's a window that you can walk
there
up
is,
to.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't fit through.
Did you have Prime?
I did. It was delicious. I got the sirloin harvest bowl.
Honestly, what'd you think?
It was delicious, man.
Anything we could do to make it better?
I mean,
be honest.
Honestly, I really enjoyed it, and as much as I am totally engulfed with the food industry, I'm the easiest person to make happy. I thought it was delicious, man.
I know, but is there anything, I mean, I say this to anyone, is there anything we could do to make it better? Because I think the food's amazing, but there's always...
I think better is relative, you know? I while enjoying that, didn't think for 1 second that it should have been a different way.
How does it compare to a Chipotle bowl?
Exactly. Like, I mean, probably better. Like, I didn't really think to it, but I would assume that the quality of ingredients is better.
Did it taste like...
It tasted delicious, man. I loved it. I would definitely get another one.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then our best seller is the Mexican bowl, which is amazing. And I like the Greek. Greek's my favorite.
Okay. I'll have to get another one. I mean, definitely right up my alley, trying to be healthier on the road. So whenever I see one of your locations.
And it's super healthy. It's a lot of organic. It's whole ingredients. We don't use any preservatives. It's truly, I mean, we built that menu to be super healthy because Shannon and I are super health conscious.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure what we're eating is super nutritious. And it's also super fresh. So the fresher the least amount of time from the time you cut a vegetable, the time you serve it, there's more nutrients. It's fresher.
Right.
So our heirloom tomatoes there, we cut 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Our Persian cucumbers, everything is lettuce, organic romaine lettuce. We cut every day at every store.
A beautiful example of how the restaurant industry is going to change the world because of people like you educating the consumer about wellness and health and how all these reasons is why I love the restaurant industry. But I do want to get you out of here. I know you have to get going, and I have a couple more questions to ask before we wrap it up. So what is one thing about your business, a value, a process, a system that is truly uncommon that makes you unstoppable?
It's true. The magic behind what we do, just from a business model standpoint, is before the stores, right? From the source, the raw material, whether it's wild caught seafood to the beef, us owning that entire process, manufacturing it, and then self-distributing to the stores. And then at the stores, creating a model that's super efficient. Like our assembly line is super tight, and fewer people need to work in there because there's fewer steps, and then asking the consumer to do some work themselves. A lot of businesses don't have the courage to basically say, we're not going to take cash, and we're going to basically say no to like 7% revenue.
Yeah,
a lot of business don't have the courage to say, you have to cash yourself out.
Right. You know,
and so that's the magic on the business model standpoint. And then of course our people. I mean, our turnover is only 58%. We have an amazing team. The team that we brought on from Salango is the best people, and that makes us different.
The mission statement is to change the world by inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry. So how have you personally transformed? How are you better today than you were when you got started?
Me?
Yeah, you personally.
I think I care more about people than I did then,
Okay.
which is saying something because I always cared about people. But I think I have some people will call it soft heart, but when you join the Angies team, when we hire you, you're part of the team. And if we let go of you because you do something immoral or illegal or you give no effort, I don't mind that. But if we let go of you because you worked hard, but you just couldn't get it, you didn't have the talent, that's where we're going to take care of you. And we give long severances to people that normally other people would just let go because you weren't performing. So I think in the beginning, we just didn't know how to do that or didn't have the courage to do that. But today, I think we have the courage to say, because when you let go of someone, you truly are impacting their life.
Oh, for sure.
And so to be able to give them some type of, parachute shouldn't go to just like the rich people, right?
Right. The people, those are the people who need it the most.
The people who need it the least are the people getting the golden parachutes, right?
Exactly.
But to be able to give it to someone who's living hour to hour is super important. So I think we're more cognizant of that now, and we do that. And so I think as a leader, as a person, I think we're better in that regard.
Got it.
Than we were.
If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom?
Yeah, I think it all starts with love. Love others, serve others, give to others.
That's 3 right there.
No, that's one. That's one thing.
Okay.
2 would be to just work your tail off and have no regrets. Give it everything you have. And the 3rd thing would be to, just don't take no for an answer, and don't let no dictate what you do in the future and moving forward.
Sure. This has been a lot of fun, Tony. Thank you so much. I would love to get you back on the show in 5 years to see where you're at and how you've scaled this thing, because I'm really interested in your future. But I really want this last question right here to be my North Star. And this is how I decide who to make an example of. Who do you respect and admire in the industry? Somebody that you look to and go, wow, they figured it out. If I could just get into that person's mind and hear their story for a little inspiration, like, who comes to mind?
There's really no one in the, there's a lot of people in the restaurant industry that do a lot of good things.
Yeah.
But like the people who I look to for the most inspiration outside of my family is, I would love to talk to Sam Walton. He's passed away, but I would love to talk to Sam Walton. I would like to talk to Herb Keller, who was the founder of Southwest Airlines. I would love to talk to Elon Musk, and those type of people to see, to learn from. because to me, those were the true disruptors, the true industry defining people. I just don't have like, I know there's some really good restaurateurs, restaurant operators. It's not the way. I never looked at Angie's or the businesses I've done as a traditional restaurant.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that's actually really great advice. I honestly don't look within the industry either for inspiration. I really try to get it from outside the industry. I think the industry is guilty of being heads down and in a bubble.
But there's a lot of great people that are doing a lot of different things. It's just, I just never looked at it that way. I never looked at myself like a traditional restaurant.
Got it. And how can we connect? If we've really enjoyed today's conversation, maybe we want to come join your team. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunity here, growing fast. What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, go to our website. Is careers at angiesfoodconcepts.com. We have someone who heads up our people and culture. His name's Carlos. He's heads up people and culture. He has his own team, but they do their own interviewing and their own hiring, and they hire for the entire company.
Awesome. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Tony. There is no questioning, my man. You are unstoppable.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Peace.